Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq. Joining us for this segment, we have Jeff Saviano, Global Tax Innovation Leader at EY, to discuss how tax reporting is evolving for digital assets. Jeff, it's great to have you with us. Welcome to Trade Talks.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
You got it. Are you seeing more governments create new policies to govern the use of digital assets in their countries? And does that include tax policy? And if so, what types of tax policies?
Oh, we are, Jill. It is a really, really hot area, as you can imagine, that there's tremendous interest around the world in both developed and developing countries to establish Web3 policy regimes. Are these assets taxable? What are these assets? What are the legal status of them? And what are some of the broader policies, both within tax and outside of tax, that countries need to consider? So it is a particularly hot space right now.
How do reporting requirements differ across jurisdictions, and are there any similarities?
I think just the question of, are these assets subject to tax? Sometimes they're referred to as cryptocurrencies. Are they like real currencies that we may have a dollar in our pocket? And most jurisdictions treat cryptocurrencies as property. And so transactions involving them would be taxable. And some jurisdictions, though, still will treat them as currencies. So there are some differences around the world. The OECD just released some guidance on information reporting, and that came to us in October. It'll be interesting to see governments around the world and how they adopt many of these proposed reporting rules that just came from the OECD.
How is EY working with governments to ensure they're building the right framework?
I give an example. We were just asked by a Latin American government, a few members of Congress, to help them in a workshop come together and spot the issues. What are even the issues that they should consider in regulating this space? So we provided examples from around the world of how other governments treat it. Exciting, because we're seeing governments want to be a leader in this space, and they're reaching out looking for that advice.
Okay, so to what we've seen over the past couple of weeks, what does the recent collapse in crypto tell you about the industry from a regulatory and policy perspective?
I think, Jill, like any innovative technology, there will be boom periods and there'll be bust periods. And we are going through a bust period, and that's not so uncommon for those of us who are around and think back to the dot-com bubble. We've seen this before. And so it's interesting to us that following these boom and bust periods, that there'll be responsible growth, and along with that will come responsible policy. And that's what we hope for, but that we need responsible regulation to advance this industry. And I think that's the appropriate next step, is to ensure that this industry can advance with that regulation that's helpful, and it's not overly burdensome to stifle innovation.
And perhaps that's a silver lining to what we've seen with the recent turmoil. When you think about the longer term implications of the digital asset space, that there is that need for that framework.
I think it is. I think that's absolutely right. In longer term, we hope that this will allow us to have a responsible base, and that the industry can grow, and it can grow responsibly. And I think that's incredibly important, that there are many issues that have to get on the table. And if anything, this will shine a light, a very bright light, on these issues that have to be addressed. But that, again, this idea of responsible and appropriate, and along with regulation, we're hoping even incentives, and seeing from governments, how can they incentivize the development of technology? How can they convene ecosystems to progress innovation in this space even further?
So Jeff, to wrap up here, what excites you most when it comes to digital assets and tax? And I don't think I've ever used exciting and tax in the same sentence before.
There's a first for everything. And what's really exciting for me, Jill, is there's an aspect of with cryptocurrencies and digital assets, they're software. You can program software to do many, many different things, including to tax. And we think, my own belief, the next generation of tax technology is to embed into digital assets. You won't need a separate tax technology system, but instead you can code tax features. Imagine walk into your favorite coffee shop and you can buy a coffee subject to a sales tax, and the sales tax is withheld automatically, and you get full transparency into the tax aspects of that transaction. If you're an employer and you pay your employees in virtual and digital currencies, you could embed withholding directly into the money itself. So I get excited about a lot of things in this space, but the opportunity to program tax into money, I think, is incredibly exciting.
All right, Jeff, appreciate the insight. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.
Thank you, Jill.